I'll be releasing it on Friday, probably sometime on Friday. And just like the previous exam, you're gonna have basically the entire weekend to do it. There's gonna be only one attempt on it, and it's gonna be, multiple choice, that kind of format, similar to the one we had previously. Uh, Now let's see here. I will try to get a review online. If I don't, then that'll be most likely because I'm too busy with other work. But I'll try my best to try and get a review for you guys on the exam. But it's gonna, so I could tell you what it's gonna be on exactly. So on, open here. So in terms of slideshows, okay? So lesson 11 to 13. So everything on the renal kidney and the renal system, okay, urinary system, your endocrine, as well as your digestive systems. Those three systems are going to be on the exam, okay? Now, the reason why I'm doing that, because I was gonna cut a little bit more into that, but I decided just to have everything, like all the complete lesson in one unit. So there's only three slideshows on this exam, okay? It's like three lecture slideshows, all right? Now, even though each individual slideshow isn't that long, remember how much detail went into each of them, right? So make sure that when you're studying for the exam, that I hope you took down notes, right? And you study your notes as well as the slideshow notes on top of that. And if you need to review the lectures, okay, if you really need to, those are all on YouTube. Okay, there are some on. I do have. Let me see here. I have one, two, three, four. I have four remote lecture recordings on Canvas itself, and then the rest of them are going to be on YouTube. Uh, but it's going to be that now from today. So all the reproductive material as well as the lymphatics and immunology, which is going to be a very small portion to begin with, the immunology stuff. It's not. It's very very superficial. That's going to be the fifth exam. So the fifth exam is extremely easy. It's known to be the absolutely easiest exam. Like I mean, when I took this as a student, I remember most students in my class would just come in and not study for that much and still get like low 90s on it. It's a pretty easy exam. It's gonna be the same deal with here, and this is and take into consideration that the courses I was taking with these are it was first of all pre-med level, and then I also took it again and in the graduate level, and these are always known to be the easiest things to learn. Okay, so don't freak out. Okay, even though don't think just because it's two that maybe you get into that train of thought that's only two, maybe it's gonna be extra hard. No, it's still gonna be easy. You have less material and it's also gonna be easy. So you got the double whammy in a good way. Okay. Uh Anyways, without further ado, so I split up the reproductive system into the male section and then the female section just to make it a little bit easier, more organized. Okay, so today we're gonna be starting with the male reproductive system. Okay, spermatogenesis. Okay, so spermatogenesis is gonna be the mechanism by which we're gonna be differentiating our germline cells into sexual cells. Okay, so sex cells such as sperm for male and eggs for female, right? That whole system. All right. Now, just as before we start this, guys, what is the process by which we make gametes? What's the process to make gametes, sex gametes in a mammalian organism such as a human being? What is that called? Yeah, it's meiosis. Not mitosis, but meiosis. You guys are expected to know this. So, I may ask a question on the fifth exam. I might ask a question about meiosis, okay? Just as a warning, because it's applicable to this whole entire section. All right. It's understood that you know this already. Okay. All right. The male reproductive system. All right. So let's first talk about the very simple, basic schematic of how we determine whether you're male or female, okay? So first thing, we always look at our sex chromosomes, okay? So remember, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes in our karyotype, meaning that our genome has 23 pairs of chromosomes. Why do we have 23 pairs? Well, because we have one chromosome from mom and one from dad, okay? So the karyotype for a female, the sex gene, yeah, they always have two X's, two X chromosomes. The male is going to have one X and one Y. So we literally have a single chromosomal difference between male and female. It's the X, and it's one either you have an extra X or the extra X is going to be replaced with the Y chromosome. Okay, that's literally the big difference between male and female as far as our genotyping goes. That's the big difference. Okay, so what happens with a female parent? Okay, when they actually undergo meiosis. All right, so they're going to produce eggs. So this is a very highly simplified flow chart. Okay, so you're gonna make eggs. And remember, eggs and sperm are haploid, meaning that they don't have um, pairs of chromosomes. They don't have a single copy of each. That's why when you eggs, for example, you only have one X and one X, right? You don't have XX on each egg. If you have, let's say this egg over here, guys, let's say you have another X here, okay? This means that the baby who's gonna inherit this egg is if the sperm fertilizes this specific egg, they're gonna have a genetic disorder. Usually, like you have trisomy X, and usually a lot of these lead to things like Down syndrome, Turner syndrome, that kind of thing. Okay, so a normally you only have one X coming from mom and one X or one Y coming from dad, okay? And they both, the sperm will fertilize the egg and create um, a zygote. That zygote then will either become a female offspring or a male offspring, depending on what you're getting from dad, okay? So, so the female parent will always donate one X chromosome, okay? That's all they can give. A female parent can only give that, okay, in nature, all right? A male parent, on the other hand, is a determinant factor on whether the child is going to be a female or a male, okay? So if the male, so remember when we do undergo meiosis, okay, we take one germline cell, okay, that one germline cell from a male become four sperms, okay? You're producing four functional sperms from a single germline cell, okay? In cells, those four cells could either have X or a Y chromosome in it, okay? As one of the chromosomes. Okay, so the sex chromosome could either be an X or a Y. Okay? If it's an X chromosome in that sperm, it's gonna form a zygote with the egg, and it's gonna form a female offspring, because then you have two X's. Remember, two X's means female offspring. Now, if a Y fertilizes the egg, then you can get a male offspring. Is everyone clear on that? This is simple. I think this should be review for everyone. Yeah. So far, this is really easy. Like really easy. Uh, anyways, our karyotype, okay? Our karyotype, guys, just to define it, okay? The karyotype is basically our entire set of chromosomes, okay? So this figure that you see to the right over here, this picture here, this is an example of a human karyotype, okay? It gives you the entire set of chromosomes. So if you were to actually count these, you would end up with 46 individual chromosomes, okay? Now, we have 22 pairs chromosomes don't have anything to do with our sex. But then the 23rd pair, which is our XY pair or XX pair, that's our sex. That is what determines our sex. Okay, all these other chromosomes, 1 through 22, they don't have anything to do with determining our sex. Okay, only the X and Y chromosomes are the ones that will determine whether you're male or female. Okay. So of course, parent number 23, which is XY or XX, that's going to be our genetic gender. Okay. And our Y chromosome carries the male genes, okay? And the SRY gene, SRY gene is within male gene. This is what it's called, okay? This is what's responsible for secreting more testosterone, okay? And it's going to lead to the development of testes, all right? So this SRY gene, okay? Now, and like I said before, guys, you need to recognize that all these chromosomes you see in the karyotype on the right side, you see how they're grouped into pairs, all right? Each pair represents a diploid, okay? Diploid count. Diploidal count means they have two copies, okay? Haploid, haploidal count means you only have one copy of each chromosome, okay? So just divide it by two, okay? When you look at a sperm or an egg, okay, they're haploid, meaning they only have 23 chromosomes, okay? A diploid cell, such as a zygote, has 46 chromosomes, okay? So 23 pairs. Keeping up, everyone? And also a little fun fact, a little thing you'll probably notice. The Y chromosome is the smallest one. So this little one over here, it's tiny. This little one there, that's the smallest chromosome we have, okay? Just a fun fact. It is the smallest one. Anyways, okay. So let's okay, so Emma wants to know, so our little dog here wants to know something, okay? What happens if testosterone levels are abnormal or testosterone receptors are missing? Well, you guys, from what we've learned so far in the entire semester, okay, receptors are important for transmitting signals, right? You need to have receptors that are going to be specific to a certain hormone neurotransmitter so that so that cell could receive that signal, right? So if you don't, if let's say a genetically genetic male, okay, he has the X and Y chromosome, right? That's the genetic makeup this person has, right? But this person has a mutation where the cell receptors are lacking testosterone receptors, okay? This means that the male is likely to not fully develop secondary male characteristics and are likely to maybe instead develop some female secondary characteristics, maybe some like for example, a swollen breast, okay? I say over here, a female anatomy, right? You're gonna be producing secondary female traits, okay? Now, on the other hand, genetic female, if a genetic female has a mutation where they're secreting a lot of testosterone, they're gonna be able to exhibit as they undergo puberty secondary male characteristics. Now, there is a chance, of course, that, for example, this female who's being subjected to higher testosterone level, they might actually become a hermaphrodite, right? They might exhibit genitalia of both a female and a male organism, right? So both female and male genitalia, they might exhibit both at the same time. Now, I know it's getting a little bit ahead of myself, but people who have these kind of disorders, by the way, most of the time they're sterile, meaning that they can't give birth or reproduce. Okay, so even if they live otherwise a fully normal life, they won't be able to have children, right? Um, is everyone clear on that? And you know the whole story with the test with the receptor, right? Like I said, it has to do with receiving signals to do things, right? Because testosterone will direct a cell to do something to maybe to produce more. You know, if you don't have the testosterone receptors, you won't be able to take in testosterone and actually, you know, conduct whatever job these different hormones are telling your body to do. Okay, so you're gonna be resistant. Basically, you're gonna be having testosterone will do nothing to you basically. Okay, if you lack the receptors for it. All right. Okay, let's talk about male. Okay. Okay, so like I said before, and it's been insinuated already that a genetic male is going to be producing testosterone, okay? And the embryonic lines develop into male reproductive structures, okay? So this means that testosterone is going to direct the formation of a male genitalia, and then when the male is going to be undergoing puberty, it's going to also help produce secondary male characteristics such as a deeper voice, pubic hair, right? Larger muscular mass, right? Different bone structure, more dense bone structure. Okay, these are regulated by testosterone, growth hormone, and it's a combination of different hormones, but testosterone is a major one. Okay, absence of testosterone is going to be a result of feminization, meaning that the genetic male is going to be producing secondary female characteristics as primary, such as a vagina, more like a vaginal genitalia, but it's not going to be a functional genitalia. Okay. Now, anyway, so the first thing that happened at 6 weeks. Okay, this is after the egg and the sperm, form a relationship. They form a zygote. Okay, so after the formation, 6 weeks after the formation of the zygote, okay, you're gonna have the genital tubercle, laboscrotal fold, urogenital fold. Then after that, between 8 to 12 weeks, this is where you're gonna have 6 weeks, week 1, week 0 to week 6. This is not really important as far as where testosterone is involved. It is after 6 weeks where testosterone's involvement is going to be crucial for development of a male genitalia. Okay, so let me just make my blue marker out. So from this section here, this is where testosterone is required, okay, for there to be development of male genitalia, okay? So in the presence of testosterone, okay, we're gonna start developing our glands, right? The glands of the penis, all right, and also the urethral groove. And the urethral groove is gonna form in your urethra, right? Then over here in the bottom, you're gonna have the formation of the anus, okay, and this is happening in 10 weeks, okay? And the glands, as time passes between 10 weeks and 12 weeks, the glands of the penis becomes more developed, okay? And then the urethral orifice is going to be more developed, right? And then you have the formation of the scrotum, which is over here, right? And then, of course, the anus stays there. Now, before that, okay, before both the genetic male and female appear the same. So before 8 weeks, like during 6 weeks, they're both going to have the genital tubercle, labioscrotal fold, urogenital fold. Okay, they both have that, but it's only after 6 weeks where it begins to differentiate. Okay, now let's say you lack, like maybe there's an issue with testosterone receptor. Okay, and you're going to proceed through the female path. Okay, you're going to be developing a gland, okay? And this gland here is going to become the clitoris, okay? You're going to have the formation of the labia minora and labia majora, okay? And the vaginal orifice, okay? That's going to be the big difference between a male and female, okay? When you split off, okay? This here depends on whether or not you're going to have testosterone. If you have no testosterone, this is what's going to happen. If you have testosterone for being produced and secreted, right? And you're going to subject your genitalia, right, to testosterone levels, higher testosterone levels. They're going to proceed through the male pathway. We're going to be developing the penis, okay? And over here, this is going to be important. Embryonic lines are not included in the exam, okay? So the only thing for this particular slide, guys, what I want you to know, okay? I want you to know, I want you to be able to look at this figure in front of you and tell me. I will remove some details of it. I'm gonna remove like the text portion of this, and I want you to tell me which side represents which, right? What happens when? Like, for example, if I were to make a little circle here and tell you, like, I'll circle this portion, and maybe this portion, right? And I'll ask you, which of these circles represents exposure, the results of exposure to testosterone, okay? Something like that, all right? And you have to tell me that, oh, when testosterone is being secreted and exposed to your genitalia, your developing genitalia, it's going to be this and this, okay? Something like that. All right. And of course, you need to be able to understand that weeks 8 to 12 is extremely important in determining whether or not you're gonna have male genitalia or female genitalia. Okay? Is everyone clear on that? All right. So far, so good, I think. This is not too difficult. You, you, you'll see it's not difficult. Nothing like the respiratory material or muscles. Okay, so here's an example of a syndrome, a genetic disorder. Okay, now this person here, photo we took from, is a genetic female, meaning that this female has an X and X chromosome. Okay, so when you see the word, because I will actually define this. Okay, if you see the word genetic female, this means this person has X and X. Okay, if you see genetic male, it means X and Y. Okay, X is genetic female, XY genetic male. All right, just to make sure that everyone's clear on that. All right. So adrenogenital syndrome. Okay, so that's a genetic disorder of a genetic female forming a penis, right, during the development of the embryo. Now, guys, question for you. Okay, why did the female develop a penis? What happened during the development of the genitals? What was it exposed to? Yeah, yeah. It was subjected to elevated levels of testosterone. So remember, testosterone is going to be pushing for the development of male genitalia during child development. So the development of a baby, a fetus, is what happens. Okay, and of course, the clitoris would be developed into a penis instead, because the clitoris is it's a that would be the penis, male. Okay, so that's adrenal. Okay. This is gonna be a little bit high tech sciencey stuff, but I like to think about these things. It's pretty cool. Especially you see these in movies quite a bit too. These pretty futuristic movies. Okay, so let's say that you build a device that you monitor the embryo, right, on every stage, and then you notice uh, that there's some issue with testosterone. Okay, what can a doctor do maybe to circumvent the progression of adrenogenital syndrome, for example? What can a doctor do for this to prevent this from happening potentially in this kind of futuristic setting? What can a doctor do to prevent? Uh, no, they, no. They would need estrogen is more for secondary female characteristics later on in life. Right now, it's gonna be primarily, yeah, you want to remove testosterone, right? So what a futuristic doctor can do, or a nurse, you could administer directly into the embryo. Remember, this is and understand you're going to be injecting the embryo itself, okay, the growing fetus, all right? And this is where it gets pretty interesting. It's pretty cool when you think about because this is possible. It's not like it's going to be it'll be always impossible to do these kind of things. It just requires more technology to do this kind of thing, where you could directly inject inhibitors for testosterone secretion, all right, and then also different compounds to break it down so that the growing genetic female, will be able to properly form a vagina. Now, there's an issue with this, though, of course, that this child, it's likely that once they're born, they're going to continuously need to have hormonal treatment for the rest of their lives, likely because they're not if they're having an issue secreting too much testosterone, they'll need to be taking testosterone inhibitors for the rest of their lives, or at least something to regulate the levels of that so that as they enter puberty, they're going to be able to develop secondary female characteristics properly. Okay? Make sense, guys? Very good. Okay, let's talk about androgen insensitivity syndrome. Okay? All right. So this is going to be something more about for males, okay? Not for females, okay? These are genetic males, all right? Now, let's say genetic males have an issue with testosterone receptors, okay? So that means, and we already talked about this before, if you don't have the testosterone receptor, it's going to be developing secondary female characteristics, okay? So, so genetically, a genetic male at birth have a female vagina, okay? At birth. Now, Drew, this is what you and this is what I'm going to tell you right what I mentioned before about estrogen. Okay, estrogen is going to function in puberty during the formation of secondary female characteristics, such as enlarged breasts. Okay, all right, kind of thing. All right. Now, so pretty small amount, the tiny amounts of estrogen will be enough because remember, there's zero testosterone function because there's no receptor. So only a little bit of estrogen is going to be needed to result in the formation of female secondary sex characteristics. Okay. Now, something else you guys need to understand too about people who have this syndrome. Okay, they don't have ovaries and they're not able to menstruate. Okay, remember they're genetic males. Okay, the only reason why they have a vagina, it's in their pubic region, is because the testosterone wasn't able to be, it wasn't able to send out the signal to the cells, all right, of your of your the oh, excuse me, where your penis would normally form. Okay, genitalia. Okay, so have that. So like these individuals, for example, the two adults over here and to the left side, they're not able to conceive children. Okay? They may have a vagina, but it's not a fully functional vagina. Okay? Make sense, guys? All right. And just a side note, these different diseases, they're not common, right? They're not normally found, right? It's like you're talking about a tiny fraction of the population. This doesn't normally happen. All right? 99%, 98% of the population, 99, you don't have any of these kind of sex defects. Okay, we'll talk about a little bit more about the male reproductive system. Okay, so we're talking about right hormones, for example, right? We need a lot of like testosterone is the big one, right? And of course, we have spermatogenesis. Now, spermatogenesis is going to be the formation of sperms from germline cells. Okay, puberty, which happens during your teenage years. This is where you're going to be developing secondary sex characteristics, whether you're male or female. Okay. What hormones are responsible for puberty? How does sperm develop? How can sperm continue to be produced for the life of the man? Okay. So we're going to be talking about these different things. Okay. And we all know, I mean, the last point here, a lot of people do understand this, I hope, that unlike women only have a certain amount of eggs that they produce in their lifetime, and that's it. Okay male and they could produce, sperm until the day they die. Okay. Now, the one thing I would and it will differ as you get as a male ages is the amount of sperm they're able to produce. They'll be producing functional sperm throughout their entire life. It's just that the sperm count might actually be reduced over time. Okay. But a 100-year-old man will be able to have children. Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about some of and this is going to be this is anatomy. So this should be 100% review, with the exception, well, Mr. Bill Price taught you guys too. I think he does teach you this anyways in the anatomy lecture. Uh, we all know where the penis is. So I mean, I'm not going to go into much, but you should know where the penis is, right? The glands of the penis, which is going to be the head over here. Okay, the penis itself is over here. Okay, then you have the scrotum, which is the layer of skin and tissue surrounding the testes. Okay, it's a sac, and the testes in here. Okay, then we also have the we have the prostate as well as the blue gland right behind your penis, so it's towards the side. Okay, so here's your prostate here, right? And here's your rectum, of course, and there's the other gland. This here. We're gonna be focusing on the formation of sperm, so the gametes for a male sperm. Okay, these are going to be developing in the seminiferous tubules. Okay, now seminiferous tubules are located within our testes. It's not labeled in this picture, but it's inside of the testes. Okay, all right. Now, guys, most of you here are women. We only have a couple of guys, a handful of guys, but what's the reason why a male's testicles are away from the body and get away from the body? There's a reason why the scrotum is separated from our body, and it's not on the other hand, it's not inside of our body, the main body, but it's outside loose. What's the reason for that? Physiologically speaking, what's the reason to have our testes like that, like outside hanging in our scrotum? Yeah, exactly, Carol. Because if it gets hot, it's not you won't be able to produce sperm. Yeah, the body's heat does not. Yeah, so that's exactly it. The reason why you want to have your testes separate from your body like this, so it's hanging inside, is so that it's going to be a little bit cooler than your body temperature, because you need a slightly cooler temperature within your testes for there to be the formation of sperm cells properly. Okay, so actual temperature is exactly 2 degrees Celsius below the body core temperature. Okay, the body core temperature, guys, is 37 degrees Celsius, if you remember. Okay, but in the seminiferous tubules in our testes, it's 35 degrees Celsius. Okay, and this is essential. Okay, that's why, believe it or not, middle-aged men and older men who love to wear tight jeans, for example, if they're having an issue with their significant other, right, they're trying to have children, right, for example, and they're having an issue with that, and the doctor finds out you have a low sperm count, because you can actually measure sperm counts, right? You give a doctor a sample of your sperm, of ejaculation, and they'll take a look at it, and they could tell you what kind of sperm count you have. Now, one of the solutions they'll tell maybe the middle-aged men to do is to start weighing more shorts, right? Something that's going to give your testes more space to breathe. And I'm not joking about this. It's actually a real thing. It's a very real thing, because especially for if you're a construction worker or something like that, you're going to be out in the heat all day. Your testes doesn't have the same degree of regulation that your body has. Okay, it doesn't have that same level of regulation. It's easier to influence the internal temperature of your testes. Okay, make sense? Okay. And the picture of a cross section of a seminiferous tubule for everyone to view later on in the chapter. We'll go through that as soon as we get there. Okay. So let's talk about what happens to testosterone level during and after puberty. Okay, so the puberty range is 8 to 14 years old. Now, this is kind of liberal with the range, guy. Really, really, puberty really happens from 12 to 14, even to 16, I would say, potentially, but really 12 to 14. Well, that's where most so I would say maybe 11. 8 years old for a male, especially, we're talking about a male, okay? For a male, really, really young. That's not very common what we see, okay? For girls, that's more possible. Girls do undergo puberty earlier than boys do, okay? That's a fact on average. Uh, Girls do undergo puberty before boys. That's why you tend to see. I mean, you probably remember when you're growing up, but you tend to see in, for example, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, that time period, you see most of the girls are going to be taller than the boys. But once you enter eighth grade and uh, ninth grade, okay, that's when all the boys start to they tend to get taller, right? And the girls in the class. All right. So so what happens during puberty? So testosterone is producing the secondary sexual characteristics of a male, okay? More growth of the body and genitalia, okay? So the way our bones are going to be growing, right? How tall we are, our muscle mass, all of that is going to be driven by testosterone in correlation with other hormones, right? It's not only testosterone, it works together with our hormones in our body. But what puberty is going to be doing with testosterone is it's going to increase our libido, so our sexual drive. Okay, more erythropoiesis. This more erythropoiesis. Okay, and this is the formation of blood cells. So you're gonna have more red blood cells being formed, and that makes sense, right? The reason why we need more red blood cells is so that we have more oxygen being delivered to all the tissues, all the organs in our body. Does that make sense, guys? That you want to, when you undergoing a period of relatively fast growth, you want to be able to increase the oxygen intake, right, and the oxygen delivery process, correct? Yeah. It's the same thing for women too, right? For women, you do because women do grow taller, right, during puberty. It's not like it's only restricted to male. We both need to have higher red blood cells. And first, we're gonna have increased frequency of erections and ejaculations for male. Okay. And then at this point during puberty is when boys are finally able to start creating sperm cells. So they'll be able to make they set the gametes. Okay. So spermatogenesis is the process of making a sperm, like I mentioned before. Okay. Now, androgen binding protein has to be present for this to happen. Okay, but this is going to be in puberty. So we should have a normal male will have this. Okay. Talk about what happens. Okay. So we're going to also have physiological sexual maturity in puberty. Okay. Now, this is kind of going over again what we had in the previous slide. Okay. Secondary sexual characteristics. And I mentioned this one before already. Facial, pubic hair growth, growth of genitalia, spermatogenesis. We're going to be able to have a boy when they undergo puberty, right? They're 13 or 14. They're going to be able already to have children in theory, right? Um, with a 12-year-old girl could have a baby, right? As strange as it sounds, right? It's like culturally and morally, it's not sound, but physiologically speaking, it's possible, right? That's why you see unfortunately in a lot of third world countries, such as in certain areas like India and a lot of the countries around there, such as Pakistan, these kind of areas, you do hear stories of 12-year-old girls, 11-year-old girls, you know, getting pregnant and this kind of thing, right? Because it's possible. As soon as you hit puberty, you're good to go to have children. Okay, if you're a normal male or female, consider doing that. All right. Now, the sexual act in a male, you're gonna have arousal, and then following arousal, you're gonna have erection, ejaculation, and revolution. Okay, and this both has the parasympathetic and sympathetic systems working synergistically. Okay, so they work together here. Okay, now sexual maturity is a process, not an event, so it happens over time. Okay, I kind of want to zoom in here. All right. Oh. Come on. There we go. All right. So a little chart here, okay? And this is going to be a representation. Let me actually zoom out just a little bit. That's good enough. Okay. So let's take a look at what happens during puberty, okay? From the age of 8 to 16, okay? So start at 8. So, and there's going to be different measures here. You're going to be measuring testicular size, which is going to be over here, okay? And here you're going to be looking at plasma testosterone level, which is going to be over here. And over here, you're going to have the plasma gonadotrophins, which is going to be very important for hormones related to your sexual organ, okay? And it's going to be FSH, is follicle stimulating hormone, okay? And we'll talk about this later on, okay? But all you need to know, and also the other one here is luteinizing hormone. So you have LH and FSH. LH is luteinizing hormone, and FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. And I'll talk about those two later on, okay? But as you can see, as the progression of puberty occurs, have a gradual increase of plasma gonadotrophin, so these different hormones, okay? And it's going to be in milliliters of unit per mil of your blood plasma. Then plasma testosterone level, okay, is going to kick off not until about the age of 12. Like remember I told you, like age of 8 is really, really young for this to happen. Like the actual, when you actually full on puberty, it is kind of young for a male. Really, 11, 12, that's the time. And that's going to be represented by a huge spike in plasma testosterone levels, which makes sense. You're going to have a huge spike, and it's going to be increasing continuously until young adulthood, okay? Now, finally, but not least, you have your testicular size that's going to be gradually increasing from even the age of 9. So around the age of 9, you're going to have a gradual increase of testicular size that goes over until the age of 16. Okay, and it might go a little bit further depending on the person. Because remember, this is an average. Some boys could have puberty at the age of 17 or 18. Okay, it's possible. Okay, and they might have a slightly delayed puberty. Okay, but also during this time period, especially during the age of 13, at the age of 13, you have a lot of other all the secondary sex characteristics of male being shown. Like you can physically start to see this around the age of 13, okay? Age of 12, you can see some pubic hair, like a little bit, okay? But at the age of 13, you're going to see a lot of that, okay? You're not only that, you're going to have pubic hair growth, penile growth, a lot more sperm production now starting to occur, okay? Your growth spurt, okay? And the growth spurt, like I said, remember, boys, when they're in 6th and 7th grade, okay? 5th grade, they're shorter than the girls, right? Once they enter 7th and 8th grade, 9th grade, right? Those years there, that's where all the growth spurt starts to happen for all the boys, okay? So that's the last thing that happens, okay? Is everyone on that? Pretty straightforward, right, guys? Not too difficult. Yeah, so we'll stop there for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be continuing from this slide, and we are likely to finish this tomorrow. Likely. Oh, this section, the male portion of it, we're likely to finish tomorrow, and we'll start the female on tomorrow too. I think we'll just start the female. I plan to have Friday a review, a quote unquote review day, meaning there's no class on Friday. Okay. So on Friday, it's going to be our traditional thing. The last class before the exam will be a free class. There'll be no class. Okay. And I'll try to have that review done, right? I'm just been really, yeah, they're posted already, Drew. I always put all my slides. I've already posted this one as well as the female part of it. Yes, it's under exam. Yeah, there are five. I'll show you right now. Let me just switch it to content, Google. Here, so this is it. If you go down to lesson for exam 5, you have the two of them over here. Okay. I'll be uploading to upload the other one on Friday, but there's one more chapter, one portion of it. And the immune system material is really, really, really short. It's not going to be that long. Uh, okay. Sounds good, guys? All right. So with that being said, let's stop this.